we're focusing on your fairway woods, and you've told us that the main issue is related to trajectory. And more specifically, you tend to hit the ball too low and you want it to fly higher. Now, the main factor that determines the height of the shots is the loft that you present at impact. Every club has what you call static loft, which is what it's designed with. But there's also something we call dynamic loft, and that's the loft you present at impact. If you're hitting the ball low, you have too little loft. So very simply, if I push this handle forwards and I angle the shaft towards the target, I'm taking loft off of the club face. So when I strike this ball well, it's going to launch low and it won't climb high enough. This means to get more height, I need to move this handle back to where the shaft is more vertical. That way I have the correct loft and I'll get a higher ball flight. So why would the handle be forwards? We're going to look at two things, partly setup and partly the dynamics of the swing. First would be setup, which is really simple. If you have the ball positioned too far back in the stance, it would be very easy to angle the shaft forward. If you move the ball position forward in the stance, you will naturally start to straighten up the club shaft. So having the ball back in the stance is going to hit the ball lower than we want it to, and moving the ball forward is potentially going to raise the height of the shot. But now you've still got the dynamics of the swing. So what is it in the swing that's causing you to get the handle too far forwards? And we're going to look at two things. We're going to look at the body motion throughout the swing, and we're going to look at the release. So body motion first. If I take a good setup with the ball well forward in the stance, and then I shift my body towards the target, the club shaft naturally leans forward. So that means if I have an excessive shift towards the target during the downswing, I'm very likely going to end up with the hands forward at impact. So with our woods, what we really need to do is make sure we don't have an excessive shift towards the target, and that will keep us what you might call behind the ball. And being behind the ball gives us the best chance possible of getting that shaft back to vertical. But there's still the release. So during the backswing, we hinge the wrists. And that means that during the downswing, one of our very important jobs is to unhinge the wrists so we can get back to vertical. And if we delay the unhinging of the wrists, what will happen is that the hands will be ahead of the ball when we get to impact. If this is the case, we get the low ball flight. So what we need to do is make sure during our downswing that we feel a more active release. So an earlier release of these angles with the hands, and that will get the club shaft back to vertical. Now obviously this can be overdone. We hang back behind the ball and release the club too actively, we can actually get the club head to pass the hands and arrive at impact first. In this case, we wouldn't get necessarily a higher ball flight, we would just affect our strike. So if the hands are back, we're potentially going to either hit the ground behind the ball, or the club is going to come up too soon and we're going to top the shot. So again, this isn't a case of just releasing as much as we possibly can, it's a case of calibrating the release so that we're not too far forward and we're not too far back. The simplest thought here is to try and get this club shaft back to vertical for the shot. So when we're practicing, set up to the side of the golf ball, have a few practice swings. First thing would be make sure the ball is forward. Secondly, we want to make sure we can feel the downswing happen in a way that if we pause at impact, we are behind the ball and the club shaft is vertical. Now we need to turn this into a slightly more dynamic move, meaning make a full swing back and through, allowing everything to flow nicely. And the feedback will be the club is going to brush the grass lightly where the golf ball is. And if you can do that, it's time to hit a shot. The golf ball will tell you whether you've gone back to what you were doing before, which is hands forward in a low flight, whether you've released the club well and you've got a good strike and a higher ball flight, or whether you've overdone it and your strike is either heavy or topping the shot. So again, little practice swing. You're feeling that you stay behind the ball. You're feeling a little bit more active with the release. And if you can brush the grouse, hit a shot.